नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। नमः श्री शंकरानंद नमः श्री शंकरानंद गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने गुरुपादाम्बुजन् सविलास महामोह सविलास महामोह ग्राह ग्रासैक कर्मणे। Let's chant a few verses. One that we already did, number 17. We'll start with that and maybe go up to number 20. So we'll do chant four verses. So Sanjay, you don't have this. I'll have to send it to you later on. It's in that book, so if you want to go to verse number 17, it'll probably have that. अविद्यावशगस्त्वन्यः अविद्यावशगस्त्वन्यः तद्वैचित्र्यात् अनेकधा तद्वैचित्र्यात् अनेकधा साकारणशरीरं स्यात् साकारणशरीरं प्राज्ञस्तत्राभिमानवान् प्राज्ञस्तत्राभिमानवान् तमः प्रधान प्रकृतेः तमः प्रधान प्रकृतेः तद्भोगायेश्वराज्ञया तद्भोगायेश्वराज्ञया वियत्पवने तेजो अम्बु वियत्पवन तेजो अम्बु भुवो भूतानि जज्ञिरे भुवो भूतानि जज्ञिरे सत्वांशै पंचभिः संचार. I think we'll get tesham also. सत्वांशै पंचभिस्तेषां सत्वांशै पंचभिस्तेषां क्रमाद्धीन्द्रियपञ्चकम् क्रमाद्धीन्द्रियपञ्चकम् श्रोत्रत्वगक्षिरस्सन् श्रोत्रत्वग अक्षिरस्सना. So श्रोत्रत्वग अक्षिरस्सना श्रोत्रियत्वग अक्षिरस्सना घ्राणाख्य उपजायते घ्राणाख्यम घ्राणाख्यम उपजायते घ्राणाख्यम उपजायते. Then number 20. Oops. तैरन्तरः करणं सर्वैः तैरन्तरः करणं सर्वैः वृत्तिभेदेन तद्विदा वृत्तिभेदेन तद्विदा मनोविमर्शरूपं स्यात् मनोविमर्शरूपं स्यात् बुद्धिः स्यात् निश्चयात्मिका. Okay. So as we go through the next few verses, those of you that have been studying Vedanta for a while will find it pretty basic. Your thought will be, gee, we have done all this before, why are we doing this again? And I mean, you're welcome to think what you think, but what I would say is that in the review of such basic material about as we are going to do, the thing to keep in mind is that there is a structure and order to this creation. And one that we don't either we are not aware of it at all in the beginning, and even after we become aware of it, we don't give it enough credence. Yeah, it's okay, world is going on, what's the big thing, why are we doing all this? But the fact of the matter is that as we our goal is to understand Ishvara, to understand the Mahima, the glory of Ishvara, you have to understand the Mahima of the structure of the creation and pay a lot of attention. So I think in and through, I'm just giving you an overall sense, in and through you will need to really be appreciative and hopefully amazed at what a job Ishvara has done. So it's not as though it's just come about and and so on and so forth. And our lives and how it is put together and what the implications of that are in terms of my future and so on is enhanced tremendously if we were to appreciate the handiwork of Ishvara. I often think of, you can look at Ishvara in different ways. You can either think of him as an engineer, or an architect, or an artist. No matter how you look at it, it's all of the above. Just incredible. And so, even as you go through some of the fundamental aspects as we are doing now, please keep in mind that it should enhance your appreciation of the totality of his work and how well it is done. It's almost like sometimes, supposing you were to, I think I would recommend it sometimes. You will say, supposing you have to develop a world, you have to create a world, anybody that has to do it, how would you do it? How would you do it? And that's a good way to look at it, really. And you find that this is an amazing job, incredible. Anyway, keep that thought in mind, and this is for people who are familiar with this whole thing. If you're not familiar with it, then you should really be. You should get to know this. But even if you are familiar, don't be bored because it has just a tremendous significance because of the reasons that I mentioned. So. So what we saw in verse number 16, that the two types of prakritis, namely Maya and Avidya, are pretty much similar, except that one is indicative of the macrocosmic aspect of this creation, which is Maya, and the other one is indicative of the microcosmic aspect of it, which is the individual avidya. Both are avidya. Both are formed by the same thing. So the fundamental, as I mentioned to you before, really, this is one of my favorite ways of expressing it, that like an artist paints things, the Ishvara's paint is avidya, Maya is avidya. And I think just the beauty of it is just amazing. In other words, if the error, the possibility of an error, possibility of not understanding was not there, there'll be no creation whatsoever. And in fact, really, this is what happens, that when we are in deep sleep. So this will come out today, that in the deep sleep, there is only total ignorance. There is no result of the ignorance. That will come when you wake up, which will do that today. So in the Maya Shakti, when it is completely engulfing you, there is a complete ignorance of things. And because of that ignorance, we actually create a world of our living, our life, our Jagrat Avastha, and so on. It is very much like if the possibility of taking a rope to be a snake was not there. Supposing, just imagine this. Just look at this as another thing to visualize how you would create this whole thing. Suppose that there are things that you are experiencing, like a rope, and there is no possibility of that rope ever be mistaken. If you see something, this is exactly how you see it. Do you know something? There'll be no creation whatsoever. And in fact, as we have been discussing, remember the last class also, the why of it. Remember the why of it, and then the implausibility of answering the why was because of the fact that you will always see things as they are, and if there are some differences, they'll be real. There'll be a snake and a rope, they will never really cross each other. One would never have a possibility of taken as something else. Whole creation could not be there. You could not visualize it. But that's not the case. In fact, it's a very interesting thing. As I mentioned in the last class also, this is an important thing to really keep in mind. I'm just revising the beginning of the last class, that the whole creation should be taken to be as is, and it has a possibility of being recognized exactly as it is, in which case there is no problem in life, or there is a possibility of making a mistake about it. In other words, not really going through with the analysis completely, and therefore suffering from its consequences. And so there is neither rope nor snake in the example that we give. It's just that, in fact, there is only rope. But there is also the possibility that you may not understand the rope as it is. This is what the creation is. And it's a very funny situation that, not a funny situation, it's a very comforting, that's the word I was looking for, a very comforting solution, it's a comforting way of looking at the whole thing, that really life is not a tragedy. It appears to be a tragedy if you don't understand it. I mean, just look at the handiwork of Ishvara. If life was indeed tragic, you could, and it is on on a specific situation, not on the overall thing. It's kind of like, supposing you stage a play. You stage a play, and you have multiple acts in the play. It's very possible that at the end of one of the acts of the play, there may be tears and tragedy. Very possible, because in order to make it, otherwise if it is just a simple story, there is nothing wrong, no villain, no nothing, nobody will come. So in order to make it interesting, you have to have some individual tragical situations. But in the individual tragical situations are only limited to specific acts in the play, then everybody leaves very happy. At the very end, the heroine and the hero, they embrace each other. The villain has been taken away. Everyone is happy. It's so wonderful. This is how our creation is. Really, this is what we have to understand. As we study through the basics of it, this is exactly how Ishvara has made it. So it's very possible that in one of the acts of your life, you may have tragedy. And it does happens all the time. Some young person gets killed in an accident, and it's a tragic situation. So, but the thing is that is one of the acts in your life. You can argue, why should any act be tragic? But then you cannot make it cannot make it appear to be real. You cannot even have the sense of drama in life. So because if everything is pretend, from the very beginning everything is pretend. No, there's no. Basically, what it means is you never make a mistake. You'll say, ah ha ha, this is just you're just fooling me. It is not real. Just stop fooling me. There'll be no tragedy. There'll be no drama. The fact of the matter is that in the beginning there appears to be a tragedy. But in the end, it all ends very well. Very, very well. So this is what it is, that the avidya, the ignorance, is a basic paint of the creation of Ishvara. You cannot have a creation without ignorance, without an error. And it's a very beautiful thing that if there is no error, there is complete freedom. And in the beginning, it appears to be erroneous. Some problems are there and so on. Anyway, we started to look at that. Maya bimbaha vashikritya tam syat sarvaha sarvagyaha ishvaraha. And so from the Maya Shakti, and this will actually come up more detail in verse number 18, so I won't spend any more time at this point. But anyway, just the basics are that the Maya Shakti and the Avidya Shakti both are similar, but one is at a macrocosmic level and the other one is at a microcosmic level. This is what number 16 was. Then we saw in number 17 we saw that before there is Vaichitriyam. Vaichitriyam means lot of variegation. Before there is a variegation, there is a lack of variegation. And the lack of variegation is similar to everyone. Same for everyone, which is at night time. So our experience in deep sleep is exactly the same for everyone. Because there is no vikshepa, there is no projection of the ignorance. It is only the avarana. So that we saw, and then there was a slight commentary by Swami Maheshananji, which is I really find to be very insightful, that really speaking, when you say abhimana as a pragyaha, that pragyaha, abhimana, is in the Jagrat Avastha. Even though And it happens only for a few split seconds after you wake up. After that, you take on the identity of a working person, of a living person. But just when you wake up, your feeling is, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything was going on. And that is called pragya. But the feeling that I didn't know anything was not in deep sleep. This is a beautiful insight. I've not seen this before. Technically, look at how nice, how airtight this definition is. Why? Because even though the pragya refers to the deep sleep, but you don't have any identity. So technically, you cannot say it's a pragya. It's only for a small fraction of a minute that you have a feeling that I didn't know anything. That is pragya, and that is in the waking state. Anyway, this is not a big thing, but he mentions that. Okay, now we are ready to cross over new ground. So with number 18, now let's look at it. So now it says, Tamaf pragyana prakritehe tat bhogaya ishvara ajnaya viyat pavana teja ambu bhuvaha bhutani jaggire. Let's look at the word meanings of this. Tat bhogaya, for the purpose of the experience of pragyaha. Why should we say pragyaha? Because the last one on 17 ended with pragyaha. Pragyaha means prakarshena agyaha, means totally ignorant, means that you are engulfed in deep sleep. That person is called pragyaha. Now, the pragyaha is getting awake. And getting awake means, it's interesting, I'll intersperse the, well, let's go through the word meaning and then I'll do the commentary. So, tat bhogaya, for the experience of pragyaha. And tamaf pradhana prakritehe, from that portion of the prakriti in which tamas predominates, is the dominant factor. And by the agya of the Ishvara, by the sankalpa of Ishvara, by the wish of Ishvara, by the order of Ishvara. Agya is a very funny word, really. For those of us that are from India, and then we can relate to that, agya can mean permission. You know, do I have your agya? Do I have your permission? Concurrence. But really it has multiple meanings. Here the meaning is the thinking of Ishvara, the order of Ishvara, the presentation of the Ishvara. And of course it also means the permission, and all those are softer. But it is a little harder. Agya means that this is what Ishvara wants. And we will see why in a minute. But this is the meaning of the word agya. Ishvara agyaya. Here the word volition is used, which I don't understand quite the word of volition. This is an old word, but anyway, by the volition of Ishvara. And by the volition of Ishvara, by the sankalpa, by the thinking of Ishvara, the following are created. Viyat, then pavana, which is air, tejaha, which is fire, ambuhu, which is water, and bhuvaha, which is earth. So these elements, bhutani, were born. Okay, so this is the word meaning. Now let's look at the meaning of the word. What does it mean, and so on. So here's the thing. In the Jagrata Avastha, in this waking state, there are three things involved, as Swami Maheshwaranji has pointed out, which is called Pasha, Pashu, and Pashupati. Pasha, it all comes from the same dhatu. I don't remember what the dhatu is, but Pasha, Pashuhu, and Pashupati. These are the three things. The exact meaning of Pasha is leash. A leash is called a Pasha. And the word leash is a very interesting one because, and a very significant one, because, supposing you see a person whose dog is on a leash. Okay? So here's what happens on a dog on a leash. The leash means that the dog has some freedom, but not much. It can run around, the leash is like 3 feet, so it has a diameter of 6 feet. It can run around. It can relieve itself when it sees a post. And then if it sees another dog, it can go close to. There's some things that it do, but then it is under the control of the Pashupati. Pashupati means the person who is holding the leash. Pasha means the leash, and the dog here is the Pashu. Pashu really means, it's very interesting how Sanskrit words are so meaningful. So, in fact, several words are used for animals. One is called Tiryak. Tiryak means that their main body is parallel to the ground. This is what Tiryak means. You don't have animals who are standing up most of the time like this, except for maybe birds. But if we just look at the bigger animals, they are Tiryak. Another one is called Pashu. Pashu is a name for animals. Why is it named for animals? Because the life of an animal is under leash. And in fact, from that standpoint, human beings are also Pashus. We are not Tiryak, we are standing up, but we are Pashu. Why are we called Pashu? Because we have some freedom, but not much. Not much. We get hungry every 4 hours. Where is the freedom? You cannot say, you know what, I hate food. I'm not going to eat food anymore, and I hate water. These are terrible things. I'm just going to be completely independent. Try it. You can't. And you say, well, I don't like days. I just want nights. You cannot. You have to have days. You have to have nights. And you'll say, I am not going to die. You're going to die. So we have some freedom here and there. You can take your Tesla into the space and just fly around for a while. But supposing you want to go near the sun and take the Tesla near the sun, you can't do that. Can't do that. So we have severe limitations, but within some limitations we have some freedom. So this is what is called Pashu, Pasha, and Pashupati. Now, the Pashupati, Ishvara, creates the world for the experiences of the Pashu. And the question is, why does he do that? Why does the Ishvara, we can again ask the same questions, why this is happening? You can ask the question, why does the Ishvara wake me up to create problems for me? Because as soon as you wake up, you have now problems start. In the night time, you have no problems. But the moment you wake up, inevitably, you may have some nice, nice, today is Saturday. Well, actually, Saturday you come to the class. That also you have no freedom. Sunday, maybe Sunday. Sunday. This is what happens to me. I get up early in the morning on Saturday, so I put the alarm on just to make sure that usually I wake up before that, but I wake up like 4:45 or so just to get ready and so on. And then I want to sleep in on Sunday. My wife wakes up early on Sunday. And she has some things that she's doing on Sunday. She goes to this flower shop and she's got some favorite things and so on. So she tells me, please, 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 wake me up before. I said, no, I want to go to sleep. So in between of them, we don't get enough sleep. So we really don't want to wake up. But as soon as we wake up, we have problems. Why? Why? You know why? Because what wakes us up is unfinished business from the previous day. You don't go to sleep by saying, I'm done, I have nothing to do, I'm happy, I've found moksha, Ishvara, everything is there, you guys take care of yourself, you're healthy. And you tell your family one day and says, you know what, I'm gone. You guys take care of yourself. That doesn't happen. Why? Because you have unfinished business. Mortgages have to be paid. Children have to be, your wife says, hey, it is your turn to take your child to the school next day. Unfinished business. So you wake up in order to experience because of the fact that you have karma pending from the previous day. Do you know exactly the same thing happens when the kalpa starts after pralaya? When the kalpa starts means after the night of the Brahmaji, which is approximately 50 million years. And so, do you know that? We are in the middle of Brahmaji's day. Really, we are in about the middle of this kalpa, which is around noon time. This is exactly Brahmaji's noon time. We have another 25 million years to go, and then the whole thing will collapse and we'll go to sleep. Everybody will go to sleep. Then Ishvara wakes people up. This is what is called tamah pradhana prakritehi tad bhogaya Ishvara agyaya viyat pavana tejo ambu bhuvoh bhutani jagnire. So the start of the whole world is provided to us so that we have to experience the world. The question is, why should we experience the world? The logic is exactly the same why you woke up on a given day. Because you had unfinished business from the yesterday. So similarly, the start of the whole creation, a restart really, not a start, but a restart of the creation is based on the previous karma. As I mentioned it to you, there has no beginning whatsoever. It's always continuous karma and karma bhoga. Karma, karma phala bhoga. Karma, karma phala bhoga. And so the beginning of the whole creation, the restart of it at the beginning of the kalpa, Ishvara has to provide you the samagri, the wherewithal of having your experiences. And that wherewithal of giving your experience has three portions to it. One is Tamah Pradhana, one is Sattva Pradhana, and one is Rajo Pradhana. So from the Tamah Pradhana, the 5 elements that you can experience are created. Sthula Sharira of the whole world. And those are space, air, fire, water, and earth. Okay? So this is how it is created for your experiences. Why should you have your experience? Because you have unfinished business. And how do you transact the world? Through Sukha Dukkha, which we will cover later on, through the happiness and unhappiness. But primarily, you wake up with a world which has been created for your use by Ishvara. And those are basically 5 elements. And the 5 elements constitute the Tamah Pradhana of what you see, what you feel, what you touch. And there is no 6th element, only 5. And it's very possible that you may not be able to work with all 5 elements. Like, for example, supposing a person is born blind, you cannot see rupa. You cannot see the forms. It's interesting that, how imagine somebody who's congenitally blind. They have to be described. They have no idea what things look like. They can touch, they can feel, they can hear, and so on, but they cannot see. So you can have a subset, but you cannot have a superset. There is no 6th element. This is another handiwork of Ishvara one should appreciate. That the entire creation is made up of these 5 bhutani. They are called Pancha Mahabhutani. Cannot be, you cannot dissect it anymore. And there is interplay in all 5 of these. But these are the 5 basic elements of the creation. And this is a model. So now this is what is created for you to experience. The next thing is the experiencer is also created. This is the experienced bhutani that is created. In number 19, now the experiencer is created. And what are those? Sattva amshaihi panchabhihi tesham kramad hi indriya panchakam shrotra tvak akshihi rasanaha grana akyam upajayate. So by the 5 elements from their sattva guna, from the sattva guna of these 5 elements before that we saw, by their constituent sattva, one at a time, the experiencing sense organs are created. Shrotra means the ear, tvak means the sense of touch, akshihi means the seeing, rasana means the sense of taste, and grana the sense of smell. Hi indriya panchakam, these group of 5 sense organs alone are born. So look at the structure now, another beautiful thing to see. So both the things to be experienced and the means of experiencing them are both created. And out of this, the Tamah Pradhana is one which is very gross. Gross in the sense that they are They're easily identifiable. Gross, not in the American sense of bad. This is gross. Not in that sense, but the gross here means easily identifiable. Touch, rupam, etc., etc. And from the sattva guna, a more finer set of organs are created that can see it. So, for example, the rupam is seen by the eyes. It's interesting. My younger brother, Uday, just went through an eye surgery today in San Francisco. I just talked to him on the phone. It was early in the morning. So one of his eyes has been deteriorating. And so they did surgery on his eye, and we're waiting to see whether it does anything or not. We'll find out. But in talking to him, I got an idea of the sophistication of the eye mechanism. My goodness. Incredible how the constituents of the eye, the iris, and the outside lens, the focusing mechanism, the wetting of it by your tears, how this is all done by Ishvara, it is incredible. The more you think about it, it says, my gosh, not possible to be replicated by human beings. We just find it naturally. So here is an eye, which is a very fine instrument that is now capable of seeing forms, colors, and so on. So that is all also created by Ishvara. So here is the constituents of an experience. The experienced things and the experiencer are all created as soon as you wake up in the morning. Now all these are at your disposal. You can open your eyes and you say, oh, where am I? What time is it? What am I? Then you say, okay, get up from the bed. So all those kinds of things are given to you automatically. So this is what happens in the second part of that. Now, so these are, I think that's all we will do. So these are the 5 organs of knowledge. This is how you know things. This is how they are suitable for your transactions. So now let's go to, let's see, before we go to number 20, let's go to number 20. So, taihi antakaranam sarvaihi vritti bhedena tadvidha mano vimarsha rupam syat buddhihi syat nischaya atmika. So let's look at the word meanings first. I think that the word meanings of the previous ones, it should be clear. And I'll just read the sentence. By the sattva constituent of those 5 elements, one by one, not gradually in terms of time, but in terms of connection, the group of the 5 sense organs called the ear, sense of touch, eye, sense of taste, and smell is born. So we have done that. Now let's look at the word meanings of number 20. Taihi sarvaihi. Tai here means by the collective sattva constituents of the previous one. The sense organs, the 5 sense organs. By those in a collective sense, the antakaranam, the inner instrument, is born. Upajayate is added, is born. And because of the differences of their function, tat vritti bhedena, it's basically divided into two parts. One which is vimarsha rupam, the one whose nature is indecisive thought, manaha, and the other one is decisive thought, nishchaya atmika, good translation, decisive thought, buddhi syat. So now we can see the whole sentence. The inner instrument, antakarana, is born by the collective sattva constituents of all those 5 elements. It is one of 2 types due to the difference in its function. The indecisive thought is the mind, and the decisive thought is the intellect. Okay, so now let's look at the meaning of what does it really mean. So now, a very amazing structure is provided for us. And the structure is that the individual sense organs are only limited to their particular sense object. So, eyes can only see the form. Eyes have no, and it's interesting, each one of them are very clearly divided. In other words, they have their own sphere of influence. You cannot cross over, you cannot see smell, and you cannot smell form. So the eyes can only see form, the ears can only hear, the nose can only smell, and so on. So these are all very particular functions that they're limited to. But there is one function, sense organs function, which is the collective of all the 5s, and it can go into any one of them, and it needs to go into all 5 of them to make sense out of the individual feelings of the jnana indriyas. This is called manaha. So as we saw in, those of you that remember the Tattva Bodha, there, the sattvic amsha of all the 5 sense organs are collectively made up of the mind. And interesting, I think Swami Dayananji was the one who gave us this very nice example. He says, in a way, it's kind of like nowadays, this Uber thing, I don't know, but the taxis in the old days, what will happen is that the individual taxis will all be going into different directions, but there is a dispatcher. The dispatcher's function is a collective one for all the 5 taxis. And it says, I think you are closest to that customer, you better go there. And then it says, the other taxi, I think you go on the western side. And it has a very good picture of which taxi is where, which is available, which needs to be done, where's the waiting time. This is the dispatcher. The mind is the dispatcher. The mind says, you touch something and it's hot, and then the touch and the form, and he says, oh, this is very hot. This is a fire. Don't touch it again. Or let's go, just leave this. Don't even touch it anymore. Just leave it. All of this supervisory function is done by the mind. This is one thing. Then this dispatching function of the mind is called excuse me. It's called antakaranam. Antakarana means inner instrument. What it means is that the individual sense organs are bahishkaranam. Bahishkaranam. So their job, in the individual sense organ's job, is to bring data from outside to the mind. And the mind is so subtle that it doesn't have a form of its own. It kind of does. It has two functions. One is manaha and one is buddhi. But that's a very subtle difference, and we'll go into the subtle difference in a minute. But relating to the outside sense organs, like for example the eye, you can touch the eye. And you can see that this is formed, and this is now I'm closing it, now I'm opening it. The mind you cannot tell. You can only feel it. Similarly, what your thoughts are, whether you're listening to me or you're looking at something else, Super Bowl scores or something, I have no idea. It's up to you. You can read your mind, but I cannot read your mind. That mind is called antakaranam. And so here's what happens. The outside sense organs, like taxis, they bring data to the mind. And he says, yes, I am with a customer, and so on and so forth, and I'm going to be free of it very quickly. Whatever. Then the dispatcher, just sitting in the office, he's not out there touching the customers or anything like this. It knows what's going on. It collects the composite view of all of the five sense organs. And it stays inside and makes decisions. This is the structure of how we transact with the world. This is how our experiences are. So this is all provided to us by Ishvara. And in order to do the karma palabhoga, in order to take the results of our previous karma, making decisions about the future and so on. So this is what is called antakarana. So now, another interesting thing. So for example, say sound. So Swami Maheshanji gives this example. He says, supposing there are people in the class who are English speaking, which we are all. We can understand English, we talk English, and so on. Supposing there is a person sitting here from, I'm just picking out, Guatemala. And I don't know what language do they speak. Is it Spanish or? Spanish? Okay, so Spanish, I think many of you know. That's not a good example. Let's say. So supposing there's a person sitting here in Guatemala. And now here's the thing. We who understand English and the Guatemalan who does not understand a word of English are both hearing the same thing. We have five sense organs. So that Guatemalan is also hearing we have five sense organs. But do you know what? Nothing happens to them. They do not understand a word of what we are talking about. It's like supposing you go to China and these guys are all these, remember there's an interesting joke, these are, I don't know whether they're made up or not. This is when the Sardarji jokes were so prevalent. Nowadays they have turned into Rahul Gandhi jokes. So this Sardarji, there was one, what was the name of this?
Baldev Singh.
Baldev Singh, thank you. So this Baldev Singh. So the Baldev Singh went back to India and he says, you know what? He came back, he was invited to the Western countries and he visited some American families. And so I don't know if that happened or not, but it's a nice joke. So he went back and he says, you know, those Westerners have made so much progress you cannot believe. Everybody said, really? How? Why? He says, even a 3-year-old speaks better English than I do. They have learned English so quickly, and he says, I'm still struggling with it. What a progressive society is this. This was the joke, I think we had heard of that.
Nehru's defense minister.
Yeah, Nehru's defense minister, yes. So another joke about him was that so when he became defense minister, he went to the offices, and the offices were full of files. They were bulging out, and they were just all over the place. So he says, what is this nonsense? Clean it up. I don't want all these files. So they said, sir, these are all necessary files. They cannot be thrown away. He says, then make a copy of each one of them and throw the other copy out. This was another ascribed to him. I've lost the train of my thought. Where was I?
You want one more?
Okay, one more. No, okay. So, so the mind is different because the Guatemalan and the English-speaking person are both hearing the same thing, but the mind has samskaras. You've gone through a lot of training of words and sentences and pronunciation. And immediately when something is said, the mind is the one says, yes, I understand what you're saying. The ear cannot. You see the difference between the Bahishkarana and the Antakarana? The ear's job is to simply say, hey, there's some sound going on. But what to make out of it is all the job of the mind. This is what happens. So this is what is called Antakarana. Now the Antakarana has two basic functions. Okay, so one is simply thinking, not making any decisions, just listening and trying to understand, to think, to make some sense out of it. This way of the functioning of the mind is called manaha. It's called manaha. And sometimes in Vedanta, there are 4 things used. One is called manaha, one is called chittam, which is memory, one is buddhi, which we are going to study, and the 4th one is called ahankara. Ahankara means the I thought. All these are very 4 significant things. Here, Swami Vidyaranya has collapsed vritti into the manaha and ahankara into the buddhi. And you can do that, it's not wrong. It's just that it has more gradations than that. So anyway, there are the 2 basic functions. So what are the differences? Differences are, one is tinged with uncertainty, and both are very healthy. Because you never learn anything until you learn to think about some things, and so on. So Dayanand used to give this example. He says, you quickly come out of the house, husband and wife, and you ask each other, oh, by the way, did you turn off the stove? And one person says, yeah, I think the stove was off. And she might say, I don't know, are you sure? He says, well, no, I'm not sure. And sometimes what happens, you are actually driven a mile or so. Or you can have, I locked the house. This happens all the time. But the stove is very crucial. Then you say, you know what, I am not sure. Let's go back. You open the garage again, and you go upstairs. In my case, I wish I had a single-story home. So I have to go up the stairs and then look at it, and yes, all the stoves are off. Now the manaha becomes buddhi. This is called Nishchayatmika. I already say that. Nichchayatmika syat buddhi. So first one is Manaha Vimarsha Rupam. Vimarsha Rupam means of the form of inquiry. Did I lock the house? Did this stove come out? There's a doubt. So this is what happens when you learn Vedanta. There's, you are all mostly in Manaha. Is it the way it is? This is what Ishvara's function is. Why was I born? This, that, or the other. All these are just Vimarsha Rupam. Then comes knowledge. Yes, this is the way it is. So Manaha turns into Buddhi. Turns into Buddhi. When you know for sure. And this is why Ahankara is clubbed with Buddhi, not with Manaha. You know, Manaha could be my birthday. Which day was I born? I just found out from a close relative of mine that for 10 years, her birthday was on February 5th. But she was 10 years old when she thought her birthday was on February 5th, yesterday. And one day her parents took her birth certificate out and they said, oops, she was born on the 6th, today. So all of her birthdays got changed into from 5th to 6th. So it's very possible, this is what happens, we are, another thing that very happens is that you think this is your mom and dad when they are really not your mom and dad. This is all Manaha. This is all Manaha, you just believe in it. Then some DNA thing is sensed, says, no, you have nothing to do with this. This is your real mom. So then you can say Buddhi. So those are the, and so, oh yeah, I was going to say that the Ahankara is clubbed with Buddhi, not with Manaha. Why? Because you have no doubt that you are there. You may have a doubt which day you were born. That's Manaha. But that's all based on belief. But the fact that you are there, and in fact you are either a woman or a man, is Ahankara. I am here. So this is a subject of Buddhi, not Manaha. Nishchayatmika. I hope you don't have any doubt. So Swami Dayanand used to say that are you there? So he says, I'm not sure, let me ask my wife. I said, no, you are very much there. So that is the portion of your experiences where the outside things that you are experiencing are brought in, and you have the ability to exercise this very beautiful and very sophisticated inner instrument called Antakarana. Karana means instrument. Karana means instrument. And it's interesting, this we will study some other time. This is a very important thing that we will do. That, and in a way it's similar to what we are studying. That when the reflection of Ishvara flows through you, as I mentioned to you a couple of classes ago, that there's only one person which is Ishvara, Brahman or Ishvara, we close to it, either one. Brahman or Ishvara, only one person. So the Bimba means the person standing in the front of the mirror is called Bimba. And that Bimba is now flowing through you as a reflection of the Bimba. Okay, so this we will spend more time on in the future, but I'm just connecting those two. Now this Pratibimba, which is the reflection, consists of two parts. One is the experiencer, and the other one is the experienced. So this is the interesting thing, that the experiencer, which is me, you ask and you say, are you the experiencer? You say, yep, I'm the experiencer. Are you sure? Yeah, absolutely. What do you mean? Aren't you the experiencer? The other one also says, yeah, you're right. I'm also experiences, and so on and so forth. Turns out where both of us are foolish. So I'm the experiencer. And the experiencer is seeing the experience, is experiencing. But I draw a wrong boundary. The wrong boundary I draw is on the other side of the experiencer. That this is me. Me meaning the experiencer with the mind, with the body, and so on. This is and the first, that I am a karta, I am a bhokta, I am a doer, I am an enjoyer, or sufferer, as the case may be. That experiencer. That's me. That's me. And what I'm seeing in front of me is the experience. This is where I draw the line. I need to understand that this is a mistake. In fact, the line is drawn between myself, the Sakshi, the Atma, and myself as the experiencer. So the experiencer, the so-called experiencer, is also a reflection that I'm aware of. And how am I aware of it? Through buddhi and ahankara. Because my firm feeling is I am right here at this point in time. And I also, by the way, I'm responding, I'm continuing on with the response. I'm also have a capability of experiencing through the antakarana. And so the reflection of Ishvara in the form of me, the Pratibimba, has two portions to it. One is the buddhi and ahankara, and the other one is manaha and chitta. This is what it's pointing out. I mean, this is what I extended this is much more sophisticated stuff which will come later on in the books somewhere. But basically, this is how it is. So therefore, the antakarana, and by the way, this is very well brought out in lots of different books, particularly later on in the book Panchadasi, but very nicely articulated in this small book called Drik Drishya Viveka. If you ever read a we should really reread this every 2-3 years or so. Beautiful. So there it says that this distinction between antakarana and also the nishchayatmika vritti is articulated very well there, but not explained in great detail. That requires someone else to explain it. But it is explained in much more better detail in the 6th chapter of the Panchadasi. Hopefully we'll study it sometime. Anyway, so I think we're done with number 20. And I want to spend a few more minutes going over number 21 as well, which will complete the whole thing. Okay? Let's see if there's something that I left out on number 20 in just 1 minute. There's a very nice example given in here. Yeah, I think we'll skip over the example. So let's go to number 21, which we have not chanted. So let's chant it. Number 21. Rajo amshay panchabhistesham. Rajo amshay panchabhistesham. Kramat karmendriyanitu. Kramat karmendriyanitu. Vakyani padapayustha. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, it is. Vakpa, it's Vakpa, not Vakya. Vakpa nipadapa yustha. Vakpa nipadapa yustha. Abhidhana nijagnire. So in this verse, the third element of the Pancha Mahabhutas are mentioned, which is the, so remember we took the 2 amshas already. What were the 2 amshas? Tamo amsha and Sattva amsha. One is remaining, which is Rajo amsha. So Rajo amsha is used by the design of Ishvara in providing us for the response for the world. Response to the world. Remember, when we wake up, we are given the Pancha Mahabhutas as experienced things. We're also given the organs of knowledge in order to interpret the world. But we also need to respond to it, because our nature is not just looking at things, but we also have to participate. That participatory action is done by the Rajo Amsha. And so Rajo Amsha gives us the organs of action. Again, from those same five elements. So let's look at the word meaning. Tesham, Panchabhihi Tesham, because of the 5 elements, Rajo Amshaihi. This is word collective is not correct. This is a mistake. The collective thing is again manaha. The collectivity is only manaha and buddhi. This is simply the individual response, not collective response. And kramat means sequentially, that is correct. Out of the Rajo Amsha, the 5 organs of action are produced. Those are actions of speech, hand, foot, anus, and the organ of generation. And so these are 5 are born. So I'll read the sentence. By the Rajas constituent of those 5 elements, sequentially, the organs of action named as organs of speech, hand, foot, anus, and the organ of generation are born. not were born. It is, I mean, it doesn't matter really. This is how it was created. This is what it is saying. So now what happens is, again, the same thing. So for example, from Akasha, Shabda is born. And so ears, so the recipient of sound is Akasha. So ears are connected to Akasha. Then not only the ears, also speech. Yeah, ears were the jnana indriyas. I made a mistake there. The ears are jnana indriyas. Karma indriya is the producer of sound. So therefore, speech is connected to Akasha. Then the organ of touch is associated with Vayu, with air, because air is the first one which you can touch. You cannot touch Akasha, you cannot touch ether. But the first thing that appears to you is Vayu, which is air, wind. And the exact equivalent to that is the hand. So for example, when you want to touch something, unless you have a damaged hand, in which case you may have to use some other parts of the body, but the hands are used for touching, to see. Like for example, Swami Mahesharanji gives this example. He says, supposing you have to bless a baby, then you put your hand on its head and say, bless you. You don't put your foot on the head of the baby. You put your hands on it. So hands are associated with the touch. Now, and anus and those are all connected with the smell, and so the anus is interesting that it is connected with smell. So this is where you see all the parts that are both urine and feces are smelly. All be created by Ishvara. It's not like somebody's urine is very nice, the other one is. All the urines are the same. All the excretions are the same. To be rejected. What a creation. Very consistent. And then the organs of procreation. Very similar. The women and the men, there may be some small differences, but all the same. And the one interesting thing here, which I didn't know that before until I saw this commentary by Swami Mahesharanji, is the foot is connected to fire. So if you read this, it's interesting. He says, the Ayurvedic doctors know this very well, that the foot and the fire are connected. So for instance, he says himself, he had gone to some kind of a get-together, and he had very high fever. Very high fever. And so there was an Ayurvedic doctor who came in, he says, Swamiji, I know exactly how to bring your fever down. This is just the fever itself. The cause of the fever may take a little while, but the fever, just like we get concerned when the baby has like 103, so you have to put some cold stuff right away. The babies their temperature varies a lot. So in this case, Swamiji's temperature was very high. So this Ayurvedic guy, you know what he did? He brought in, what's the English for lauki, ghia?
Gourd.
This gourd, which I don't know if the Americans know this or not, but this ghia is very cooling in its property, not the temperature cooling, but its property cooling. So what the Ayurvedic doctor did was to take the ghia, and then you have to take all the skin off. he started rubbing the ghiya on the feet of Swamiji. And Swamiji says, amazing, within half hour my fever was down. Incredible. So he says that the feet, he says, I had always read about it, but I didn't realize so the feet and the fire are connected. Another thing is that if you are feeling cold, it is better you wear socks. You may not wear a sweater. This is what happens to me also. As long as I'm wearing a sock, I don't have to wear the rest of the things, I feel secure. And if I am not wearing a sock, I can be wearing sweaters, but my body feels cold. So therefore, the karma indriya of the foot is connected to the fire. Anyway, now we have completed this thing where Ishvara wakes you up and gives you the world to experience and gives you the experiencing mechanism as well, based on your previous karmas, unfinished business. This is how we transact sukha dukkha in our life. All designed by an intelligent person in a very structured, orderly manner. So this we have to appreciate. Anyway, I'll just leave some time for questions and finish today. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Yeah.
Can you explain again when you said chit's meaning? Because I always thought chit was consciousness as in such.
No, so this is chitti, which is memory. So when I gave the example of the Guatemalan not understanding English, so memory is the one that allows us to understand language, samskaras of the language. So it takes us a long time after repeated exposure to the words of a particular language, the usage of the words in the sentence, the relevance of it, the association with it, all of that is done in the form of chittam, which is, so chit is the consciousness itself, but here it's a little bit more than that. It's called chitti or chittam. So which means purely a memory function, samskara function. That's how it is.
So when we say Sat Chit Ananda,
Yeah, so
Sat is obviously consciousness, correct? Or no?
yeah, so all three of them are consciousness. That's Atma. So Atma has three basic, one is the isness of the Atma, one is the consciousness of the Atma, and the third one is the purnatvam of the Atma. It is purnaha, it is not incomplete, anantam. So there the chit refers to the fact that I'm conscious. I'm not in a coma. That's the nature of the Atma. So that's slightly different than this usage here, which is, yeah.
It's believed that some birds have sense to feel magnetism. So in our system here, where does magnetism fall, under what element?
So magnetism will be a combination of Akasha and Prithvi. because Akasha, space, is the place where all forces are kept. Strong forces, weak forces, and so on. And the expression of the magnetic, so the magnetic force is actually kept in the Akasha. It is not just, it's not an inert thing, it's a very powerful thing. Along with, for example, the ability to transmit electromagnetic waves, picture waves, sound waves, all of that is in Akasha. It's not in Vayu, it's not in Jalam, etc., it's in Akasha. But the expression of magnetism, so magnetism is in Akasha, but the expression of magnetism in terms of its practicality has to involve Prithvi. Because what the dance of the whole creation is with where the Prithvi is a recipient of the magnetic forces. That's what actually keeps us, tethered to the. Otherwise, it'd be floating all over the place.
Just like gravitation.
Just like gravitational, exactly. And then within that, I don't understand all the intricacies of the North Pole versus the South Pole, but those two opposites also are within the same one there as well. Yeah, so it's very possible that the animals all have a very strong strength in one area or the other. This is why you find these cats or dogs that have been lost for 10 years. And they might have been left over in 200 miles away. They find their way. Amazing. We have no idea how they do that.
And also during earthquakes, the animals behave differently.
Yeah, they see that a little bit split second before we do. Yeah, there's something in there. Yeah. Yeah.
So you previously said that when we die, as in body stays here and our karma phala goes with us.
Yes.
And now you said that mind is a finer, it's an instrument, so it's made of all the elements.
Yes.
So I would assume it stays here as well.
No, the mind is part of what is called Sukshma Sharira. So Sukshma Sharira is the subtle body, so that goes with the jiva.
So does that mean here we are able to, since mind is an instrument that is made of all the senses, we can refine this instrument?
Yes, very much so. So they say that, this is a very, very good thing that you're asking. So this is what is called the inner wealth versus the outer wealth. So the Sthula Sharira is the outer wealth, which is useful. Both types of wealth are useful in our life. But the difference is that the Sukshma Sharira stays with the Jiva in the next life. So what that means is that we should really spend more time in refining Sukshma Sharira in terms of our thinking. So for instance, it is said that for someone to become more tolerant in their lifetime is extremely useful, because the cells of tolerance will appear in the next life also. You don't have to start all over again. That's why you find there's such tremendous differences between children. Some children, they're saying, I don't know, you can share, you could share. Other people say, no, this is all mine. And so it all is a anuvritti from the previous life, yeah. So in any case, to answer your question, the mind. Now the specific buddhi it may have to be developed as part of the development of the mind. We didn't go into that, but there is actually, it all starts with just the mind, because the child has no buddhi whatsoever. But then slowly you train your mind to be very sure about things. and that converts into buddhi. So the very thinking process is part of the sukshma sharira, but the specific part of buddhi versus manaha is not. That's all developed over time. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were talking about this boundary, we incorrectly put this boundary on. So is it correct to think that we need to remove this boundary to include the experiencer, the experience, and that which is experienced?
So yeah, it's the boundary that we put together is because we think we are the experiencer. And by definition, the experiencer has a particular locality, a particular place of time and space and so on, so for individuality. But if you understand that you are actually looking at your reflection, and your bimba is actually free of time and space, there's nothing specific. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sorry.
So I was just wondering when you mentioned the start of Kalpa, Brahma says,
Yeah.
Brahma thinks that let one become many.
Correct. Ishvara thinks.
So in a microcosmic level,
Mm-hmm.
something similar is going on with the individuals, the jiva, when we go to deep sleep and we
Yes.
wake up in the morning.
Yes.
In a way, we were down to one. Or
Yes,
nothing.
of course.
And we
Yes,
create
yes.
A whole variety
True.
of people,
Absolutely.
relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same thing. Exactly. Yeah, this is a very nice thing to see that we don't have to visualize things that we cannot experience. Our experience is a good teacher. So, for instance, our assumption is that I need to be successful in order to be happy. This is our basic assumption that, and so on. When in fact the deep sleep disproves it. We don't have to be, you're just as, you're not any more accomplished when you are asleep than you are in awake, and yet you are completely happy. So this is a very beautiful thing where we have to, deep sleep is a very big teacher in Vedanta. We'll look at it from a various standpoint. But in general, what you say is that a microcosm is not dissimilar to the macrocosm is true. It's absolutely true. Shilpa, I'll wait for your question next time. I think it's 9 o'clock. Please remember there is no class next Tuesday. Yeah. And if you can come to the Saturday, would be terrific. Yeah.